Howdy, everyone. Frankie here, New West Reset. Hello. How's it going? Welcome back. Thank you very much for shooting in, joining a fella here for another one, another live one, as a matter of fact. New West Reset Live, episode 149 here today, Sunday, December 14th, 2025. Just a scotch past 5 p.m. local time. That's mountain time. Because, as always, we're coming to you from the foothills of the Canadian Rocky Mountains. Calgary, Alberta, up in Canada land. Purdy, Alberta. Snow-covered southern Alberta right now. But not that cold, actually. We've had a warm spell here last couple of days. It's still right now plus 4 Celsius. Say plus 5 Celsius, roughly. 40 degrees Fahrenheit. It's not bad. It's not bad. We had quite a bit of snow, though. A few inches, a few centimeters, quite a few centimeters. But now it's just kind of slushy and it's starting to melt a little bit. Well, it's melting a little bit, but it's still there on the ground. You know what I'm saying? Basically, people have gotten a chance to shovel their sidewalks and driveways for the next dump. We had a couple of cold days. It's warmed up. This is what we call a Chinook. CHINOOK. Double O-K. Chinook. Warm winds that blow in off the Pacific coast. Once they go over the Rockies and come here into Alberta, they've lost all their moisture in the mountains. So it's warm, dry air. The temperature will shoot right up here, bud. It'll go from -0 to above 0 in a matter of hours. And that's what's going on. But it ain't going to last. Next couple of days, it'll be above 0. And then, whammo! Old man winter. Back with a uppercut to the jaw. With more snow and more below 0 temperatures. So I hope you're doing well. I hope you're not below 0. That's cold. It's chilly. So thank you for joining me here on today's show, episode 149. We're going to be looking at a failed reset up in Port Nelson, Manitoba, here in Canada. So this is a topic that was suggested by a friend of the channel, Cory Ash. Again, Port Nelson. I think it was an attempt to restart a region, and it failed. They tried to reset something that was destroyed, and it failed miserably. So they basically abandoned it and moved further on up in the Hudson's Bay region. So we'll have a look at that. Of course, links below for everything that we're going to cover. So thanks for joining me here. If you haven't already, please give a fellow one of these. You know, it just kind of helps to push me out into the thing. Do all the other stuff down here. Appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. For those of you who've already shared and subscribed, appreciate you. Thank you. Cheers to you. If you're watching this after the live, thank you very much. Really appreciate all your support as well. Speaking of support, down below, link for my Reset 1700 documentary. Yeah, I'm still plugging that. Still some people that haven't seen it yet. And, you know, folks need reminding. And again, as mentioned, links below that everything we're going to be covering, as well as how you can get a hold of a fella. Email, BitChute, of course, on Rumble, because we're always broadcasting simultaneously on the HooTubes and on the Bumble. So welcome to everybody. Thanks for winding down your weekend here with yours truly on the Sunday Funday Show. Woo! Let's say howdy to everybody in the box, in the chat. Say hello. Let me know how you're doing. What's going on? What's happening? What's happening, baby? See how everyone's doing. KJ's here, Kinley Jackson. Good to see you. Can do a little cooking. Fantastic. Cook away. Cook away. Good to see you. Chassis Nix is here. Hello, Chassis. Howdy, howdy. Kathy Broughton in the box. It's 10 degrees in Kentucky, and I'm freezing. Yeah, I reckon you would be. What the Sam Steele is going on there? I mean, it's warmer up here in Canada than it is down in Kentucky right now?
That doesn't make sense.
Ah, bless you, and Godspeed. I hope it warms up. Yeesh. Does not sound fun whatsoever. Channel Fitty Tree is here. Hello, welcome. Hippie Shake in the box. Howdy, hippie. Good to see you. Baja is here as well. Howdy, Baja. Hello, hello, hello. Good to see all of you here. So yeah, getting ready to kick things off here. I think that's everybody except Tidal. Tidal's here. Yeah, hey buddy. Yeah, you finally getting a chance to shovel out there, right? Yeah, well, more's coming, so pace yourself. Turtle's here. Turtle. Hello, Turtle. How you doing? So thanks for being here, everyone. As mentioned, episode 149 of the live show, we're going to be looking at a failed reset, or at least what I think is a failed reset, up in Port Nelson. Show you where that is in a second. Then, as per usual, we'll get into it. Then we'll take a mid-show break, and when we come back, got some photos to look at. Not many, just a few. Some that are linked to the Manitoba government archives. So, you know, official stuff, rubber stamped and all. Ooh. As well as just some stuff that, a fella grabbed off of the interwebs. And then I'm going to have a rant about something at the end of the show. And it's about AI, which, I love so much. Sarcasm alert. Sarcasm alert. Said it before, say it again, say it till I'm blue in the face. People are all freaked out about, AI is going to get us like that there Terminator movie. Look out, man. It's going to get us. AI is as dumb as a sack of rocks. I've shown examples of that time and time again here on the channel, but we're going to get into that later on. Right now, thanks for being here. Appreciate all of you. Martin, over on the Rumble. Good to see you. Howdy, howdy. Welcome. So without further ado, what do you say we get into this? As per usual, we're going to have a look at Wikipedia, see what it has to say. Why the Wikipedia? Besides the fact that it's wacky, it's kind of a good go-to for most folks. Normies and whatnot. It's one of the first things that pops up if you're looking into the history of anything anyway. And it's just, fun for shits and giggles, for lack of a better term. So we're looking at Port. Actually, you know what? Stop sharing for a second. Let's show you where it is on the map, on the goggle machine, on the maps here. Port Nelson. I may say Fort Nelson accidentally here and there. It's actually Port Nelson. It is near a fort, though. It's near a couple of forts. But it's not Fort Nelson. It's Port Nelson. Let me show you where that is here. So here I am, way down over yonder. Alberta. Saskatchewan, here's Manitoba. So there's Port Nelson, way up here. Right on the Hudson's Bay there, buddy? Right up there in the tundra there, bud. The polar bears are up here, man. And I'm not playing with you now. Polar bears. Right next to York Factory, which for over 200 years was the main, I guess you could say, head office, central office, regional office or whatever for the Hudson's Bay Fur Trading Company for like 200 years. And they shipped out of here. Furs were processed here, supposedly. And Speaking of forts, it is a fort. York Factory was a fort. And not too far off from here, actually, up in Churchill. Speaking of polar bears, is another fort on this weird peninsula. Prince of Wales Fort. That's very obviously, well, let's say that's been there a long time. It's definitely a star fort. Wow, what's it doing way up there, bud? What is that doing way up in the Arctic, basically? You want to talk about cold? Ooh, wee. That is cold. Churchill and Port Nelson, cold. Colder than a witch's elbow. Old World, Michigan is here. Howdy, buddy. Good to see you. Hello, hello. We're looking at Port Nelson, Manitoba. So let's see what Wikipedia has to say about this. It's a ghost town. Ooh, spooky. On Hudson's Bay in Manitoba, Canada land, at the mouth of the Nelson River, hence Port Nelson. Its peak population in the early 20th century was about 1,000 people. Immediately to the southeast is the mouth of the Hayes River and settlement of York Factory. There it is, Fort York Factory. Not to be confused with Fort York in Ontario. Some folks use Port Nelson to mean the region around the mouths of the two rivers. So kind of that general area in here is referred to as Port Nelson, but it's really, there is an actual port. All right, let's see what's going on here with the meat and potatoes. They jump right into it. All right, good. So early history. Port Nelson was named by Thomas Button. Who the heck was he? Royal Navy officer. Ah, of course. 1612, 1613. Okay, so he explored the Northwest Passage. There's a lot of fellas that explored the Northwest Passage. He's just watching the live stream of Lucius Aurelian. He was talking about some of these Arctic Northwest Passage expeditionary trips and how so many of them supposedly failed miserably. But they kept trying, convinced there was a way. Geez, I wonder why. Because perhaps there was previous knowledge that there was, in fact, a way at once upon a time. You just had to know the correct route. Route? Route. Howdy, Mike. How you doing? Good to see you. Pinkster's in the box. Hello, hello. Welcome. All right, so August 15th, 1612, Captain Thomas Button, seeking for a harbor on the west coast of Hudson's Bay in which he might repair damages incurred during a severe storm, discovered the mouth of a large river, which he designated Port Nelson, from the name of the master of a ship whom he buried there. What? Missing some stuff in between these sentences here, aren't we? Actually, that's all one sentence. There's a lot of... We just jumped from, I was looking at repair ships because I had to bury a guy. What? Wait, who? What? So the French explorers and fur traders, Pierre Esprit Radisson and Médard de Groseilliers, had scouted the area. Yeah, I have to, speak a little bit of French there. You know what I'm saying?
I can't understand a word you said the whole time.
Do you eat some peanut butter or something?
Yeah, you sound like a dog with peanut butter on the roof of your mouth.
I think what you are hearing is my accent. I am French.
Water the tree. Ross in the box. Howdy, Ross. Good to see you. So the first expedition in 1670, the French explorers and fur traders, those French guys as aforementioned, had scouted the area, learning from local native contacts that the Nelson River area had great commercial potential. What do the natives know about commercialism? It's not really something that they practiced in their societies. I mean, trade, I guess, is a form of commercialism, but it's not like they calculated all kinds of complicated mathematical equations to figure out, overhead and wholesale to retail markup and margins. Anyway, moving on. At the time, much of the focus of early expeditions was on the bottom of the bay, and a succession of early posts would be established near the bottom of James Bay. And that's you have Hudson's Bay, and at the very bottom, the bottom tip is James Bay. Starting with Charles Fort, Rupert House, which was a trading post, in 1868. This was the closest part of Hudson's Bay to New France, which is French Canada. Basically, today, Montreal and up the St. Lawrence and going into New Brunswick, parts of Nova Scotia, and Prince Edward Island. And it could be reached via inland river routes. It was done in the 1686 French expedition. Oh, yeah, parts of Maine, Vermont, too, I believe, were part of New France at one point. But anyway, so he captured English posts on the James Bay, and the Nelson River, meanwhile, provided a route to the western interior of what is now Manitoba. So you have the beaver foires, the decimated major ally of the French traders, the Huron indigenous natives, and weakened the fur trade connections to the interior. So this encouraged Radisson and de Groseilliers to explore further into the interior, penetrating far into the Pays d'en Haut, the upper country. You grab the Great Lakes. Okay, fine. Just say the Great Lakes, man. Later expeditions, the Hudson's Bay Company post was established in 1682 in a context of intense local competition, both from the French and New England traders. The New England traders under Benjamin Gillam were focused on the Nelson, but were outmaneuvered and captured by the French under Pierre Esprit Radisson. So a lot of tussling back and forth of control of this area for some reason. Everybody wanted to get at that, what I showed earlier on the Google Maps. The mouth of this river, Nelson River, excuse me, to establish Port Nelson, as this river feeds into the Hudson's Bay. And I guess they're trying to, the importance is because it was more in the northern part of the upper Hudson's Bay rather than the southern tip of James Bay at the bottom, which is closer to Montreal and, some of the larger towns and settlements at that point, at least according to their narrative. But to be able to find a river further up in the Hudson's Bay that goes just as far inland is advantageous for the supposed fur trade, because they don't have to sail as far down into James Bay where, it might be occupied by somebody from an opposing faction, a rival trading company or a rival country, whether it be France or England, right? Crazy stuff. So I'm not really sure why it was so important other than that. But I mean, big deal. There's tons of rivers that go inland from the Great Lakes. There's also tons of rivers that go inland from Hudson's Bay and James Bay. There's multiple ways to get inland, all the way into basically the prairies, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, heck, the North Saskatchewan River, which comes right in here into northern Alberta. Well, north central Alberta. Up near Edmonton there, eh, buddy? So it was during this period, 1660 to 1870, when the many Assiniboine and Swampy Cree trappers and hunters became middlemen in the Hudson's Bay Company fur trade economy in Western Canada. The Cree began to be referred to as the three distinct groups: the Woodland Cree, Plains Cree, and Swampy Cree. Swampy Cree and the Assiniboine, that's another indigenous nation or tribe or band, used the Nelson River along with the Hayes River as the main inland routes to the Great Inland Lake, which was and is Lake Winnipeg, a massive inland lake, almost as big as one of the Great Lakes. Although the Nelson is much larger, the Hayes was a better route to the interior. Therefore, most of the Hudson's Bay Company's trade was done from York Factory on the Hayes, which was built in 1684. So we're to believe. Way up there near the Arctic Circle. Right on the bay, the Hudson's Bay, freezing cold, where tall ships, tall wooden mast ships, get stuck in the ice. But they're just building this stuff up there. I'll have to talk about here in southern Alberta that our summers basically go from, well, I'll put it this way. Winter usually lasts from the end of October, beginning of November, right through to the end of March. And we can sometimes get snowstorms in April and May, where we get 30 centimeters or almost a foot of snow in a few hours. So you can imagine further north along a massive body of water close to the Arctic Circle. It's going to take you a long time to build stuff up there, man. So what are they trying to tell us here? They did this back in the 1700s. Just build massive forts up there. It's fine. It's easy. It's all for the fur trade. Wow. So although the Nelson is much larger, the Hayes was a better route to the interior. Therefore, most of the Hudson's Bay trade was done in the York Factory on the Hayes. It was built in 1684. In 1694 to 95, Father Marist recorded the Assiniboine are 35 or 40 days journey from the fort, Port Nelson. 35 or 40 days by river. So that gets you into Saskatchewan, because southern Saskatchewan, excuse me. You try saying southern Saskatchewan, buddy. Southern Saskatchewan used to be known as Assiniboia, named after the Assiniboine. So yeah, that's quite a ways from, the upper west coast of the Hudson's Bay down through northern Manitoba, going in a southwesterly diagonal direction along the river system till you get to southern Saskatchewan, which is close to where I am. That's crazy. That's exactly right, Cousin Vinny. Unfreemason in the boxes. It was all about the hats. Yeah, you got to have those beaver pelt hats. That's right. Good to see you, Cousin Vinny. How you doing? I hope you're feeling all right. Glad you could join us here. Because you get the Frankie Fingers over here, but then you get the Cousin Vinny. Huh?
So now you know what I'm talking about with the whole New West Reset thing.
No.
What?
No.
What I said about Frankie Fingers.
Oh.
The Frankie
Oh,
Fingers
yeah.
and New West Reset are the same.
Wait, what? All right, let's skip ahead a little bit here to more modern times, 20th century boom and decline. Really, why? Why? In the early 1900s, the government of Canada felt that a major harbor on Hudson Bay was needed for shipping grain. So we're going to flip-flop from beaver pelts to grain now, people. From central Canada. So grain coming from the prairies, Alberta and Saskatchewan land and Manitoba. In 1912, Port Nelson was selected as the site over Churchill. The one that was a little bit further north along the bay that I showed you there that had that massive star fort. So at the mouth of the Churchill River. Yeah, that's where that was. So they chose Port Nelson instead to become the terminus of the Hudson's Bay Railway, the construction of which had already begun from The Pass, which is a town in Manitoba, in 1910. So in the winter of 1912 to 1913, the site was surveyed and construction of a wharf began. Oh, began in the spring, okay. Followed by buildings and other infrastructure built during the summer. So in the winter of 1912 to 1913, the site was surveyed. And then construction began on the wharf in the spring. So they went up there in the winter. In the winter. Why? And let me remind you exactly where this is. If you're just joining me here on the Goggle Machine map. I'll just show you right quick here. Port Nelson. So they surveyed up here. The Arctic Circle is up here. Like this is the Arctic here. Like this is Baffin Island where the puffins live. Like this is way up there. Like I said, polar bears. Polar bears have been known to walk through the center of town in Churchill and Port Nelson. So they went from the pass, which is down along here somewhere, all the way up here in the wintertime to survey this. And why'd they need to survey it if York Factory was already there since the 1660s? It's only a stone's throw away. You look through a set of binoculars and you could see it. You could almost throw rocks at it, bud. And supposedly the indigenous people that you're trading with here, they know all about this anyway. But we gotta survey it. And we gotta do it in the winter. Okay, bud. Have at her there. Have at her. Not sure what you... Okay. I don't know why I'm so hung up on that, but it just seems like a crazy idea to me. Anyway, so brand new Canadian research ship, the CSS Acadia, was sent from Halifax, Nova Scotia to chart the harbor and approaches in the summer of 1913 and 1914, which is the best way to get close to that Port Nelson, the mouth of the Nelson River. However, the whole harbor project was fraught with problems from the start. Material shortages, labor disputes, storms, fires, and boating accidents led to major delays. Fires on the water up in the frozen north tundra. Lots of fires, I guess, up there. For some reason, I don't know.
I don't believe you.
But okay, we'll go with it, I guess. KJ say I call some BS on this, Frankster. Yeah. I don't know, right? Just sounds a little fishy. Just sounds fishy to me. Kathy Broughton saying I'm not buying this narrative. There's always something weird, right? It's always something hokey that you're like, wait, hold on, wait, what? So anyways, moving along here, another setback was the necessity to completely redesign the harbor because the fast-flowing Nelson River was building up silt on both sides of the wharf. Therefore, the harbor was changed to a small man-made island further out in the river. Siren in the background because it's just warm enough to have the window open. So you're hearing the sirens in the background. Sorry about that, people. But you know what? Can't break with tradition. Why do it now? It's been years. Wouldn't be a New West Reset live stream without some sirens going off in the background. I don't live in Detroit or Chicago or the Bronx. Nope. Live in Calgary, up in Canadanedia land. Anyways. So the Nelson River was throwing a lot of silt in there, so they had to dredge it, I guess. So therefore, the harbor was changed to a small man-made island further out. So they decided, well, we'll build it out a ways there, bud, further out, so that the silt deposit doesn't keep raising the ocean floor or the bottom of the, ships can get in there. Is basically what the deal is. The island was connected to the mainland with a 17-span truss bridge built by, there it is, Dominion Bridge Company of Montreal. The Port Nelson erect dredge currently lies on this island. Yeah, we'll get into that. All right, so they've been there for hundreds of years. And then they decide we're going to put a harbor here in Port Nelson. But even though we've been there for hundreds of years, because York Factory's right there, we better survey it. So we're going to survey in northern Canada in the winter. All right, check. We got it. Well, what's next on the list, bud? Well, it looks pretty good. So let's start building stuff. Oh, geez, we started building and then we realized, the silt. It's making it tough for the big ships coming from Europe and the UK to come in here to get the wheat, bud. They keep bottoming them out there, eh? So we got to dredge it. And then the dredge wrecks. So they had to build an island too, right? So they built an island offshore because of the silt from the river piling up. So, okay, we'll build her out there. We'll build a man-made island. We'll build this massive bridge. And then we still got a dredge. And then the dredge wrecks on the island that the dredge built. Oh, the ironies of the dredge wrecking upon the very island it helped construct offshore. What in the Sam Steele am I reading here?
Shenanigans.
And then, of course, Dominion Bridge Company, real heavy in the Canadian narrative. Post-reset. In fact, I recently explored one of their buildings, which was actually a complex of buildings, a series of different buildings, in a Boots on the Ground video. So when Canada entered WW1, it resulted in further material and labor shortages, and more significantly, the loss of political and financial support. The project was able to continue a few more years until 1918, when all work stopped and the site was abandoned. They just up and left it. The whole project was greatly criticized by several politicians, the media, which called it a gigantic blunder, and even the project's chief engineer, even the guy in charge of the place, was like, this stinks. This is awful. What are we doing here? This thing's a cockamamie hiccup from the get-go. Right out of the gates there, bud. They're just, this thing's going ass over tea kettle. The Hudson's Bay Railway never reached Port Nelson, and its tracks lay abandoned until 1927, when Churchill was chosen to become the northern shipping hub. Construction on the railway was restarted in 1927, completed 2 years later in 1929. In 1989, Parks Canada began the York Factory Oral History Project, which included compiling stories by Swampy Cree elders. Flora Beardy, the York Factory Cree woman, conducted interviews with 14 elders, some of whom lived in Port Nelson. So there you go, according to the Wikipedia. This thing's off the charts, man. But here we are, and there it is. I don't know, man. Let's look into this dredge real quick here. Channel 53 says that is shenanigans. It just sounds cockamamie. We're not even there. We're only a third of the way there yet. There, buddy. Hold on to your britches good and tight there, bud. We're going to look at the Port Nelson dredge itself. Port Nelson was a dredger. There's some confusion, right? Because you have Port Nelson, Manitoba, But there's also different Port Nelsons, not only in Canada land, but elsewhere in the realm. Like in the UK, there's a couple or three at least Port Nelsons or Fort Nelsons. And you know how fun it is doing verbal wrestling with the goggle machine when you type in Port Nelson and it says, "Did you mean Fort Nelson?" No, I didn't mean Fort Nelson. Otherwise, I would have typed Fort Nelson. I meant Port Nelson. But then you got to specify Port Nelson, Manitoba. Because you might get Fort Nelson, which was the name of the dredger that built Fort Nelson. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm getting at here?
What the hell is going on around here?
So anyways, Port Nelson was a dredger that served from 1914 to 1924 at Port Nelson, Manitoba, Canada land. So in 1913, Canada's Department of Railways and Canals commissioned the Polson Iron Works in Toronto, Ontario, there in the T.O. to build a large suction dredger. Oh my, sounds Anyways, to help construct what was to be the first port on North America's Arctic Ocean coast, to be named the Port Nelson. She was completed March 1914 and towed to the Hudson's Bay, arriving September of 1914, where she promptly ran aground. Fantastic. A 1924 storm tossed her onto the artificial island she helped to create, where her wreck remains today. And that's the thumbnail. And there's the picture. We'll have a look here in a second. She carried a crew of 35 and was 180 feet or 55 meters long. That's huge. And it had a beam of 43 feet or 13 meters. That's, across, basically. And a draft of 6 feet or almost 2 meters. That's what was below the surface. And displaced 1,200 tons. It's big. It's big. So look at some of these photographs. So there it is. It got washed up onto the island it helped build by dredging the bottom of the Hudson's Bay, where it's fed by the Nelson River. There it is, actually doing its thing. Sorry, I can't get any closer than that. There you go. I mean, this is cockamamie, isn't it? I don't know. Seems cockamamie to me. They tow it up there, and then boom, she just basically just promptly ran aground. Just promptly. I thought she just got her up there, bud. When did she run aground? Oh, promptly, bud. As soon as we got her ass up there, boom, there she was. We got her up there, eh, bud? We towed her up there, eh, from down over in yonder in Nova Scotia there, eh? And we get her up here, bud. We get her right to work there, eh? We get her going, and she's just giving her. She's just giving her, dredging away like nobody's business, bud. She gets about 2/3 of that there island made out there off the coast there, bud. Storm comes in, blows her right up on it. And there she is, bud. That's it. She's done. Yeah, who's steering the boat? Apparently it was a storm. We'll get into it. I was like, wait, what? So I did a little digging, and I actually found a video of this story as well. So, yeah, Hippie Shakes, Port Nelson. in Hampshire, UK. See, there you go, over in Hamptonshire, Tington. Yeah, yeah. Frankie, do you know about Googling with the minus sign? Yes, for the minus AI. Yes, and it'll give you a on the Google machine there on the goggles when you want to look up something. You type it in and then type the minus symbol and then the letters AI. It's not case sensitive or anything. You don't have to have punctuation, just an A and an I. I will admit that the AI is useful in the sense of compiling and collating information about a subject, right? It'll take, little bits and pieces from the top 5 sources, and then it cites them off to the side at least, so you know where it's get the info from. So you cross-reference it and kind of look yourself, click on those and see what's what, see if it jives with other stuff that you've looked at. But you can't take it at its face, right? You take it with copious grains of saltage. So it is what it is. Anyways, I've found something else here. This is from the Manitoba Historical Society archives. It's got a little bit of the history, and then it's got some photographs. And I've grabbed a few extras, including some from here, but again, some extras so that later on in the second half of the show, we can have a better look at them, kind of zoom in on them a little bit. But for now, let's see what we've got here with this historical sites of Manitoba. Port Nelson, and again, this is the Manitoba Historical Society archives, mhs.mb.ca. So between 1915 and 1960, as part of construction of the Hudson's Bay Railway linking the pass, and a planned port facility on Hudson's Bay at the mouth of the Nelson River, an impressive half-mile-long, 17-span steel truss bridge, manufactured by Dominion Bridge. Got to get that plug in there for Dominion Bridge. Was erected out to an artificial island constructed in the bay. It was later determined that the port of Churchill, at the mouth of the Churchill River to the north, was better suited to the needs of the commercial shipping, and the facility at Port Nelson, along with the bridge, was abandoned without ever having been used. It wasn't even used, not even once. Remarkably, the bridge remains intact, well, intact-ish, a century later. Despite having had no maintenance, the 180-foot harbor dredge, Port Nelson, the boat, that is, the dredge boat, lies abandoned on the artificial island, where it was deposited during a storm in late 1924. Now, I want to say that that's a little misleading. They always say that it ends up being washed up on the artificial island that it helped create, but it actually washes up on a wooden truss system, wouldn't be some kind of dock within the harbor itself, made out of big big wooden beams, truss beams, or big, like basically the 6x6s. With big steel bolts and whatnot. So it didn't actually land on the island. It landed on this big wooden thing. Well, we'll see that in a second. So it's a little bit deceiving. So anyways, grading of the right-of-way between the pass and Port Nelson was done by a company owned by Malcolm McMillan and Colin William McMillan. All right. So we do have some photos of Port Nelson. It's 1917. Does that open that up? No, it doesn't. I think it does, but I don't think you can see it. It's pretty built out considering they're still in the process of, we're just got to build this. Like there's supposedly nothing there yet. Hadn't been used once yet. There's this crazy truss bridge. 17 spans. And there's part of the island supposedly out there that they built. There it is in modern day. It's already a little bit washed away or something. Unless that's high tide, low tide. I don't know. See some of these structures remain here. The tugboat's up there, all good to go and everything. See this sort of wooden pier? That's what it came to rest upon. There's the dredge thing, and see, there it is teetering on this, which you can see is a wooden pier. That's just steel bolts holding together big wooden beams. So if this thing, which was, I think at the time, it cost $1 million in 1913, or whenever they had it built. What was it, 1913? So think about, that's a lot of money now. And then suddenly there's a storm and it washes up or gets tossed up. Remember the size of this now. It's the size of a bloody modern day airplane. But a big wave tosses it up and it lands on this wooden pier. So it's wood, man. Cut it. Get your saws out there and your axes and whatnot and cut her, bud, and, ease her down or whatnot. You could use the railroad tracks came out to here. You could use the trains to ease her back down into the water there, buddy. What's going on? So there it is there. I think. Aerial view of the Port Nelson Bridge showing the abandoned dredge lying on the artificial island at the end of the bridge. Okay, yeah, right here. There's the bridge. So the railroad came from the mainland across this thing already onto here, all the way up to there at one point, or maybe circled around. I'm not sure. I think it went straight though. But here's that bridge. So they built this all across here to connect to an artificial island that the dredge built, but then was washed up on. But you can clearly see that it's on top of a wooden, some kind of wooden, this isn't steel or concrete. Of course, now it's too late. It's done snapped in half. But then you'd wait till high, couldn't you saw this away and at least get her kind of loosened up? And then when high tide comes in, you have some cables or something attached to the steam locomotives, and you kind of ease her in. I don't know. I'm no engineer, but anyways, link below for that from the Historic Sites of Manitoba. A little bit goofy. Anyway, where are we at here? 10 minutes to the hour. Coming up on 6 p.m. local time. Thank you for being here. Thanks for winding down your weekend here on the Sunday Fun Day show. Frankie, New West Reset Live, episode 149. Looking at the failed reset of Port Nelson, Manitoba land up here in Canada. I think I'm getting ready to take a little mid-show break here. Give you a sneak peek at your upcoming midweek vintage footage video. If you're new to the channel, or as a reminder, if you've been around a while, every Wednesday I upload a vintage footage video, old-timey footage set to music. And Sunday on the live show, I'd like to give you a little sneak preview of it. And then, of course, every Friday, boots on the ground video, and then every Sunday back here for the live show. So speaking of trains and railroad and technology and all that stuff, this is old railroad steam tech, 1910. This video is about 3 minutes long. So, sorry, I'm having some problems here. What's going on here? Technical difficulties. It's amateur hour here on the show. All right. Old railroad steam tech, 1910. We'll see you on the other side of about 3 minutes. All right. Thanks, everyone. Stick around. I'll be right back. Cheers. All right, and we are back. Welcome back, everyone. Frankie here, New West Reset. Thank you very much for shooting in, joining me here for another one, another live one. New West Reset Live, episode 149. Here we're looking at a failed reset, or what I think was a failed attempt to reset a certain region that for some reason in the past, the late 1600s through to the early 1800s, was some kind of significant importance. They were like a dog with a bone with this thing. They wouldn't let it go. Talking about Port Nelson up in Manitoba on the west coast of the Hudson's Bay. And by they, I mean the Hudson's Bay Trading Company, along with the Hudson's Bay Railroad, their transportation division. different than all their other divisions and holdings. But anyways, welcome back. Second half of the show here, we're going to look at another something else I found online, but it's got a lot of photos, and then I've grabbed some of those photos and some of those photos from the Wikipedia, as well as others, so we can zoom in on them. Not a bunch, just a little bit. Small file of photographs. So thanks for joining me here. Appreciate all of you. If you haven't already, give a guy one of these, just to help to push me out into the thing. Do all the other stuff down here to help a fellow out. Really appreciate that. Thank you. If you're watching this after the live, really appreciate you. Thank you very much for your support. And as always, links below, down in the box, for everything we've covered, as well as how you can get a hold of a fella. My location map, courtesy of Cousin Vinny, is there as well. You click on that and it takes you to all the boots on the ground videos I've discovered in a sort of a map app with links to each video. All over Alberta here, bud. Not only here in Calgary, but up to Edmonton, down to Pincher Creek, a bunch of spots in between and there and abouts. There in a boot. Oot in a boot. That's the one. And of course, BitChute, email, Rumble. And if you're so inclined and would like to make a donation, PayPal's there as well. Certainly not necessary, but greatly, greatly appreciated. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'll send you a t-shirt if you send me your size and your address. Just email me. Let me know. Appreciate that. All right. So what'd you think of that video there? The steam train technology. Yeah. Before hydraulics. Indeed. Hey, Sig's here. Howdy, Sig. Good to see you. Hello. Got Kinley Jackson, KJ in the box. Hippie Shake is here. Chassis Nix is here. Yes. Yeah, the old steam shovels. Water the tree. Ross in the box. Yeah, some crazy tech. Wood and Chrome is here. Good to see you. He says, looks like fun. Yeah. Be careful. Because, hard living. As Channel 53 puts it, hard living indeed. Waffles sound delicious. Baja says I'm making waffles because that's what I had. Because that's what was right in front of me. Meltological in the box. Greetings. Hello. Howdy. Good to see you. So thanks for joining me here. Thanks for winding down your weekend. Again, at the top half of the show, we just looked at the Wikipedia and at the Google Maps there on the goggle machine, just to see where Port Nelson was and what's going on, and a little bit about that dredger. So I've got a video from the that I've grabbed from. I grabbed this from the Who Tubes. Anyways, let me share this with you, and we'll watch this. It's about 15 minutes, give or take, if not mistaken. It's about 15 minutes. It's called Abandoned Manitoba, Part 2, and they discuss Port Nelson and Manitoba's forgotten seaport on the Hudson's Bay. So we can get that queued up.
Site of Port Nelson.
Right, so I'm going to watch it with you. I may pause it occasionally. This is from the Abandoned Manitoba YouTube channel, I believe, but they also have a website. It's from the Manitoba Historical Society. So as per usual, in the chat, in the box, if you could please let me know if you can see and hear this okay on your end. It should be coming in all right. It's all right on my end, but just let me know how the sound is and whatnot here as we get to rolling.
The mouth of the Nelson River on Hudson Bay, an abandoned seaport. Let's go have a look.
I'm Gordon Goldsborough, past president of the Manitoba Historical Society, radio and newspaper columnist, and author of books on the neglected, the overlooked, the hidden places from Manitoba's past.
All right, thank you. Title Turtle in the box is all good. All right, excellent. Thank you very much. 5x5, says Kathy. Thank you. Modoc. Howdy, howdy. Welcome. Morgan is here as well. Isabella live. Good to see you, Morgan. Hello. Okay, let's see what this fella. By the way, I gotta say, I admire this old fella's gumption. Actually, you know what? Come to think of it, the link for this video was shared by Cory Ash as well. So he shared the topic of Port Nelson with an article or two, and a link to this video comes via a friend of the channel, Cory Ash. So yeah, that's where this link comes from as well.
Join me in this series as we explore back roads to places that tell great stories about how things used to be and how we have ended up where we are today. This is Abandoned Manitoba. Due to the tidal nature of the Nelson River, we have to leave at high tide to ensure we can make it over the many rapids we'll encounter along the way. So, at 4 a.m., we depart in the most impressive jet boat I've ever seen.
So right out of the gates, even there, bud, they're at it already. They're at it already with the. Yeah, it's choppy and there's a lot of rapids here and there's a lot of shallows and it gets pretty rough there, bud. So we got to leave it high tide. But this is where the Canadian government, for about a decade or so, was considering making the largest Arctic accessed seaport in North America to ship out the grain. Hey, they did it with the furs for hundreds of years. Why not some grain, bud? But even with this smaller boat, they're having trouble. Got to wait till high tide at 4 a.m. to get her out there, buddy.
Operated by Nelson River Adventures. Its 800 horsepower double engines power us down the Nelson and make short work of the coastal chop that lies in wait for us closer to our destination. This will be my second visit to Port Nelson. My first visit was 5 years ago, and I'm looking forward to seeing how much has changed since then.
We've arrived at the mouth of the Nelson River where it flows into Hudson Bay. This is the site of Port Nelson. It was supposed to be the seaport that Churchill became. It was constructed starting in 1912. It was abandoned before it was completed, and here it is over 100 years later. We've arrived. We're going to have a quick look around, but I think to really get a full sense of the scope of this site, we should put a drone up in the air.
So there's in a nutshell the official narrative. They started it in 1912. Things basically didn't work out. They ended up having this project being done further up north in Churchill, Manitoba instead, which is also on the coast of the Hudson's Bay. And this was abandoned. And they aren't kidding when they see abandoned. Like, there's just wheelbarrows scattered about and all kinds of stuff just laying around. It's like, you know, the whistle blew and quitting time on the last day, and everybody just dropped their stuff and turntail and heel-toed it out of there. You know what I'm saying? Anyways.
I quickly brief the rest of my traveling party on the layout of the site and go over our safety protocols. This is polar bear country, so we must always travel in groups with a firearm present in case we surprise a bear. Then it's time to send up the drone.
Take off.
Yeah, polar bears are the largest of the big bears, right? I mean, grizzlies and Kodiaks are pretty big, but I think polar bears are larger. I mean, either way, you don't really want to run into a bear up there anyways. Doesn't matter if it's a black bear, brown bear, grizzly bear, polar bear. But I think the least fun would be the polar bear, yeah.
The home point has been updated. Please check it on the map.
I'd like to get one of these. I'd like to get one of these smaller drones. One of those ones that's under a certain weight so that you can just freely fly it about and you don't have to worry about any kind of restrictions for the most part, except for, reasonable stuff like around airports and military installations and so on and so forth.
Port Nelson was constructed between 1913 and 1917 as part of the Hudson Bay Railway, linking the Pas with a planned port facility on Hudson Bay at the mouth of the Nelson River. The idea was to provide an additional seaport for the shipping of grain and other material from Western Canada to overseas markets. A huge dredge, believed to be the most powerful one in the world at the time, was built at a shipyard in Toronto and shipped up to the construction site. It began dredging material from the bottom of Hudson Bay to create an artificial island about 1/2 mile offshore. Eventually, a large grain terminal would be built there. To connect the island with the mainland, an impressive 17-span steel truss bridge was erected. Unfortunately, shortages of money and construction workers during the First World War halted the work before construction was completed.
So here they only cite WW1 as the reason, but apparently there was already labor and materials shortages prior to WW1 kicking off for whatever reason. But be that as it may, that's the old story of they have to divert manpower and resources for the war effort. So they just halt it. And basically they came back, and then I guess they realized, oh, look what we done did. We effed up. We effed up real bad, boys. Like, we really screwed the pooch on this one. Like, we crapped the bed badly. We got to move her up. We got to move her up further up the coast here, bud. More polar bears, but less dredging. See that wheelbarrow or whatever that was? It had steel outer wheel, but the inside of the wheel was made out of wooden planks. See if I can catch it.
The work before construction was completed.
Right there. Look at that. Some kind of wheeled implement. The axle and the outer circumference is a band of steel or iron or something. But then to fill in the wheel, the body of the wheel that's wood, right? It's weird looking, man. Anyway.
One of the important pieces of evidence that you can use for dating a site like this are the rails, because it was a common practice to mold into the rails that when they were being manufactured, the name of the manufacturer, sometimes the weight of the rails, and the year of manufacture. And, well, here we go, right here. Lackawanna, 300, and the year 1913. They started building in 1912. This is perfect. This is completely contemporary with the port. They brought this rail at the very beginning as they were starting to build Port Nelson.
Of course, he just happens to find that rail sitting there with no mud or anything on it, completely face up right at his feet to show you. Yeah. But I mean, interesting nonetheless. Now, I did know that not all, but the majority of rails were stamped or marked in some way with, much like glass or other items, china, porcelain. It's marked with a manufacturer's mark, some kind of trademark or symbol, or if not, just the city where it was made, like, I don't know, Flint, right? Or Oshawa, Kitchener, Pittsburgh, whatever, right? And then the year. Now, I know that from my great-granddaddy and my great-uncles, and also a couple of my uncles and my cousin that all worked for the railroad. So, yeah, Ross, Rails, I'm listening. Yeah, that's if you can find a section of the rail where the it's, you know, basically the proper end of the rail, and it's not an end that they had to cut because they were joining something after, you know, bringing in a junction or something like that. The proper end of a rail, and it's exposed enough, you might be able to find a date on it. And perhaps where it was made.
The terrain here is rocky, slippery, and deceptively treacherous, as one of our director cinematographers found out twice.
Oh, oh, oh.
This guy's just bailing all over the place. Whoa. But yeah, that's because there's crap everywhere. It looks pretty junky. I agree. It's because, like I said, it looks like everybody just dropped everything. Well, we're giving up. That's it. All right. See ya. That's a wrap there, boys. I like how this.
Okay, let's see if I can
Soul
climb
guy
this
just
wall.
does not care.
I'm going to see if I
here.
can climb onto the bridge that links the artificial island to the mainland.
Now, what makes this guy get permission to just monkey his ass up there to this old bridge and poke around? But if you or I were to go out there, I don't know, charter a boat or whatever to get out there, and we wanted to climb up there, oh no, hey, whoa, that's dangerous there, buddy. You can't be climbing around and poking around up in there. Like you know, you can't just go monkeying around in here, bub. But maybe because he's the former president of the Historical Society, they're just like, it's whatever. Just wear a bright orange vest and wear some good footwear, I guess, and just have at her there, Gramps. But again, tip of the hat to the old guy because he just doesn't care. He's just like, I'm gonna give her, bud. Hold my beer, eh? I'm going for her.
If Port Nelson had been completed, this bridge would have been used to convey railway cars full of prairie grain to the terminal for loading onto ocean-going vessels.
Yeah, I walked down 3 of these spans last time I was here. The question was, how the heck did I get up there? You can see all the lichen growing on the wood. I mean, it's all just breaking down, and man, it's...
The nose of the rail. There you go. There you go. Yeah, that sounds like something else. Sounds like you're honking rails. Not you, but the term, you know. Booger sugar. Yeah, that booger sugar. Watch out now, it'll get you. That stuff's no good. That's the devil's dandruff right there. You don't want any part of that. That's right. That's right, Vinny. Cousin Vinny on Freemason in the box says we got to get you an orange vest, Frankie. Get you in anywhere. Yeah, an orange vest and a hat that says, Manitoba Historical Society or whatever on it. And Robert's your mother's brother. Thank you very much for shooting in. Good evening, Frankie. I just arrived to Calgary. Nice and warm here. It is now with the Chinook. Yes, yes, yes. I brought that up earlier in the show. Thank you for being here. Roman numerals, let me see. 1,000, 1,000, and what is that? 1,057? 1057? Is that what that is? 1057? I'm probably way off with my Roman numerals. But thank you for being here. Are you a local? You just visiting? Have you permanently moved to Calgary? Just curious. I'm not going to come and get you or nothing. Just curious. But thank you for being here. Good to see you. And yeah, it is nice. We're getting a Chinook. We're experiencing a Chinook good last day-ish or so. But we've got colder temperatures and snow coming. It's the pitfalls. It's the up and down yo-yo effect of living this close to the mountains. We get the warm winds from the west coast, and it goes above 0 Celsius, and it's pretty nice there, buddy. But also the mountains bring unpredictable weather. So by next weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday-ish, next weekend it goes below 0 and we get snow. Whoopee! Whoopee! But, it's Canada and winter. So I guess it's kind of supposed to be cold and snow.
Much worse than when I was here last time. Now I have to get over there. So let's go down here. And down here. Oh, this is maybe promising. Let's just try this.
By the way, hopefully you can still see and hear everything okay. He says unless you want us to. He's just playing. He's just clowning around. Look at this old fella. Get up there, Santa.
Wow.
Good on you, bud.
Things have really changed in the 5 years since I was here last time.
So this is the second time that they've allowed this guy to just, okay, put on your vest there, Dad, and give her. Yeah, climb on up there. Yeah, she's rickety. She's 120 plus years old, but that's fine. It's fine. Just mountain goat your ass up there. Not a problem. We're not going to have anybody spot you or anything. As a matter of fact, you can film yourself scurrying up there like a woodland squirrel. We might hoist a cameraman up there to film you struggling. But that is a good point. Who's there to stop him? Well, it's Canada, right? So the bureaucracy's out of control. So he's going to have to get all kinds of permits.
As I look down them now, I see that they're even more bent out of shape. Even 5 years ago, they were in better orientation, like they were all more or less even. And you can see now some of them are bent to the north, some of them are bent to the south. And wow, I'm not even sure I would want to try, even if it was possible, just because, they're not that great a shape anymore.
Yeah, that thing's twisted and turned and it's as crooked as country road. But, again, 100 and what? Let's say 1917, because, roughly, WW2 or 1 breaks out. And they kind of limped along a little bit after the outbreak of that, but not much. And then they shut it right down. So, what is that? 118 years? So all intents and purposes, 120 years that thing's been sitting there. And he's saying in the last 5 years, it's already deteriorated considerably since the last time he was in there poking around, monkeying around. Okay, now this, hang on to your hats there, good people. And get a load of this.
When this dredge was built in southern Canada, its official name was the Dredge Port Nelson, because the plan was that its entire life would be used here at Port Nelson, first to construct the port and then later to maintain the port. Its official name, gave way to the $1 million dredge, because that's what it cost by the time they built it. By the time they moved it up here, it cost $1 million, and that's a lot of money even today. Keep in mind, though, that this was over 100 years ago. It was
That's what I said. $1 million is a lot, not nothing to sneeze at even now.
Vast sum of money just for the dredge.
The massive dredge that had created the artificial island, and which would have been used to maintain the port facility after it became operational, was doomed by an event that occurred while the construction site was mothballed. On the 1st of November, 1924, the site was hit by a huge windstorm that pushed up a wall of water 24 feet high. The water picked up the dredge, which had been dry docked on land, and deposited it crossways on a timber seawall of the artificial island.
Okay, so there it is. That's the official story from the Historical Society. So it's got to be run up the chain, make sure it's all the T's are crossed and I's are all dotted. So it was dry docked. It wasn't even out there floating. It wasn't oot in a boot in the water there, bud. She wasn't even out in service. Dry docked. What did he say? A 20-foot wall, 20-meter wall? Doesn't matter. Hoisted up this massive airplane-sized, circa 1915-ish, 1912, I think they built, and just set it down, balancing perfectly, not right in the middle, because, you have engines aft and you have cargo, in the... You have cargo sections. So that is to say that you can't balance it perfectly in the middle. It might be heavier in the stern or in the bow, probably the stern. I don't know. I'm not a boat guy, but generally that's where the propellers and the engines are. You have a bit of a drive shaft from the engine room, which is generally in the stern. And the bow is your cargo and your ballasts and whatnot. So it was able to pick it up and not deposit it crooked and all cockeyed so it's half in and half out. Nope, just teetering perfectly on there. And you heard him say to himself, wooden timbered seawall that was used as basically as the framework for the artificial island. So they put the seawall in and they were filling it in with the stuff that this dredge scooped up or sucking up from the floor of the Hudson's Bay. And then, putting it in on the other side of those walls to construct the man-made island that eventually was going to be this big Arctic shipping seaway to transport wheat. Okay. So this happened naturally, y'all. This is Mother Nature. I'm going to pick this up and just set it down here just nice and perfectly, just like that. There you go. Okay, bye. And again, why? Okay, well, get some guys and some saws and saw away at some of that stuff. You can strap it so that it doesn't fall while you're sawing through some of those. You could anchor it up a bit. You've got steam engines that you can use to hold it nice and taut. And you just start nipping away at the wood down there, bud. And then the high tide comes in and then you just kind of wriggle her loose. Gentle and easy does it, but, get at her, bud. No, we're just going to leave it teetering there. We don't have time to mess around with this now. We're in the middle of WW1. We spent $1 million on it. Yep. But we're just going to leave it for now because we're busy messing around in Europe right now. We'll come back to it later. And she'll be fine there, just teetering. It's going to be just fine. Oh, man. It's absolutely and completely ridiculous. I just don't get it. This thing was 1,200 tons. It was 180 feet long or 55 meters long, 43 feet or 13 meters wide. And it required a crew of 35 people. So not the biggest thing to hit the seas by any stretch, but not exactly a fishing schooner or whatever. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, an all iron. Yeah. We'll see here. I'm going to quit blabbing.
There it sat, perched precariously. Because the storm had been higher than any normal tide at the site, there was no way to get the dredge off the seawall. It still sits there today, nearly 100 years later.
I mean, you can see this big jagged tear. You know, and that's not small weight metal, and that's pretty heavy stuff. Clearly it took an enormous amount of force to tear that. Wow. Well, and here, this wood.
So it's one of those once in 100 years freak storms, where there'd be a once in 100 year freak snowstorm, once in 100 year freak flood, you know, the 100 years flood, the 100 years hailstorm, the 100 years cyclone or tornado or hurricane or typhoon, or in this case, one of those once in 100 year freak waves that picks up massive dredging machines made out of iron and moves them from their dry dock inland and just plops it down on top of this wood-beamed seawall. I don't know, man. It just, I mean, I'm just wondering. That's all. I'm just, you know, these are the official sources for what actually happened here. I'm just asking a few questions to make sure that everything is fine. That's all. I'm just wondering, because I wasn't there. It seems to me that if you spent that much money on something, even if you weren't going to use it here and this project was a failure, you could somehow salvage this thing, get it down off of there and use it elsewhere. Barring that, scrap it. Like I saw in the box in the chat, just scrap the thing. At least you're getting something out of it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, Sig saying, just scrap me. Just scrap it. You know, so I'm just, you're the one telling me. I'm just asking questions. That's all.
Let me ask you something. How come you asking so many jackassy questions?
This is the seawall that it was sitting on, and you think, well, all the rest of the seawall, the wall between here and there has all gone. It's all been eroded away. But here, because it's got the dredge draped over it, it's still here. This is what killed the dredge, this stack of timbers.
A stack of timbers killed a 1,200-ton iron sea dredging vessel. I know I keep harping on it, but cut them timbers, boys. You call yourselves Canadians? Come on.
With its back broken from the accumulated stress of nearly a century, the dredge makes a perfect climbing frame to explore top to bottom, port to starboard, and bow to stern.
Now, the unfortunate thing is I don't know the layout of the ship. I have never found a schematic that would say what each room was. But I mean, these two rooms, these two right here, were right into the mess hall. So, you know, maybe, conceivably, they were quarters for some of the crew.
Again, I love how this guy's just allowed to just kind of poke around in here. It's obviously very dangerous. I mean, this thing is snapped in half over the years. You know, they're right there on the Hudson's Bay, which is just off of the Arctic Ocean. You know, in the Bay of Baffin. Baffin Bay? Baffin Bay. Polar bears just, you know, kicking around, hanging around, chilling it. Drinking their Coca-Colas. Smacking their lips, wait for some slow-moving, bearded, older fella. Not slow-witted, slow-moving at least. Slow to react. Oh, this guy's going to be easy to catch here. And again, nothing against this fella. I admire his gumption for climbing around in here. Good on you there, Pops. Good on you.
Of course, you can see all of the places where the crew was expected to walk. They had this sort of stippled metal to give it a little more traction. You know, because you can imagine if you were walking out here in a squall, in a storm, and there was water on the deck and it was now potentially slippery, that could be really treacherous. Yeah, let's look at down some of these pipes down here. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. I mean, I know I'm using that word many times, but it's just, I can't think of a better description. It's just so massive, you know, on a scale that we just cannot imagine today.
So that's how big this thing was to be just picked up like that and moved and balanced precariously on this timber seawall. He's saying it's so massive that he's at a loss for words, and it's just something that we can't even imagine today. And this isn't some, 23-year-old kid saying this here. This is a fella that's seen some stuff. You know what I'm saying? You got to get up pretty early in the morning to put one over on this old fella here, you know? So, I don't know. Yeah, you're totally safe if you have a vest on, Ross. You got to go to the store and make that part of your kit for when you're poking around there in the bushes and in the woods and stuff, and buy them old stone bridges and whatnot. Just get yourself an orange vest. If you've got an orange vest and a clipboard, man, you can pretty much go anywhere. You add a hard hat and some safety boots to the mix. Yeah, no one's even gonna. People can't even be bothered to check. You kind of sort of look like you're supposed to be there. That's good enough.
And just say torn apart as though it was just a rag doll.
As the day progresses, a strong wind develops, making the route to the mainland unnavigable by canoe and kayak. I want to investigate what may be left on the mainland, so I need to come up with a new plan, and quick.
Okay, so we're going to send the drone over to the land because I'm really interested to see what sort of buildings are over there. There was at one time an entire village to support 700 construction workers. The buildings were all abandoned along with the island, so I'm assuming that some of the buildings are still there. We'll find out. We're just approaching the shoreline. At one time, when the site was active, there would have been a whole series of cribs that sort of reinforced the shoreline against erosion. I'm told that they might still be there, but I don't see any evidence. We're just going into shore now. We're crossing over onto land, and I don't see much evidence of them. Oh, what's this? It looks like a little lake, but it's actually a lake with very straight boundaries. It must be the remains of a foundation that is filled with water. Wow, that's cool. In addition to the buildings, there were also railway tracks. They used little railway cars to carry supplies around the site, and I don't see any evidence of those. I mean, they're there probably, but they're completely buried in vegetation.
Yeah, railway tracks buried in vegetation. I need to get me one of them little drones. Like I said, just one of those small ones that's under a certain weight, so you're pretty much allowed to fly the thing wherever. Just to check out some spots that, might be a little bit tough to get at. Besides, I think it would just be fun.
This site was cleared during the construction, but obviously the plants have reclaimed the site. Oh, here's another building. Ooh. Oh, yeah. Oh, man. It's collapsed. Woo. Probably over the years, the snow would collect on the roof, and just gradually the wood would give way. Of course, they weren't maintaining it at all. They weren't repairing anything, so over the period of 100+ years, it doesn't take too long before it's all gone. Wow. Okay, so there's another building back there. Oh, got to go back over there now. Let's have a look at that one.
See? This fella's having a blast with this thing. Oh, thanks for the advice, Channel 53. In the box saying, Frankie, get a DJI Mini 3 or 4. It's under the 249 gram weight limit. That's at 249 grams.
Let's see. Oh, actually, there's ones over. Oh, there's actually lots of buildings here. I think a drone is absolutely essential for the kind of work that we're doing. You know, it gives you a perspective that you just can't get any other way. I mean, in this case, the vegetation is very dense. Like, I don't know whether we could even walk over there. It would be so dense. And the other issue, of course, is that because there are polar bears in this region, it's conceivable there could be a bear lurking in there. We would never see it until we were right on it. So, you know, having an eye in the sky, it's more effective and it's definitely safer.
Yeah, and if there are structures there, some of them have collapsed, but some look to be still standing or partially standing. I mean, that's going to be a perfect shelter for a polar bear to just kind of hang out in there. It wasn't that long ago on this channel for a live show that we explored a couple of islands that were nicknamed Polar Bear Island, one of which was supposedly an abandoned Soviet-era weather station on some craggly island way up in the north. And there was houses and other large buildings and structures on there, and there's a bunch of polar bears living in them. And they're not normally a social bear like most bears. You know, they're not like lions or wolves that hang out in large groups, or coyotes for that matter. They tend to be solitary, and they tend to have large territories. But now they just all decided to chill out together in these buildings. Could be the same thing here, right? Some of these structures, you don't want to just come tootling about in there. Do-do-do-do-do. Gonna check out these old buildings. Got my backpack on. Da-da-da-da. And a bear jumps out and eats your face. You know what I'm saying?
We've been here now for several hours, and in the background we can see an exposed...
He's obsessed with polar bears, isn't he? I mean, I would be. I don't want to get my face eaten, you know. KJ said no way he's controlling that drone. Looks staged. Yeah, they're just filming him holding it, maybe. I mean, who knows? Maybe the old fella likes, maybe that's his hobby. He's flying drones. I don't know. You seem pretty sure-footed poking around on the old bridge and the old dredger remains there, so maybe he's doesn't have the shaky hands yet. I don't know. I mean, the guy's not 90. Mind you, he's not 19 anymore either, so who's to say?
Mudflat. It's low tide. And that reveals the fundamental flaw of Port Nelson. The water here is shallow, and it always will be. They realized that when they started to work here. They realized they would have to dredge to build it. They realized they would have to dredge to maintain it. Always, going forward, the big ocean-going ships simply could not come to the terminal here unless they'd continue to dredge. And that was going to be a problem. So in the 1920s, when they came back and with sober second thought, looked at what they had already built, they thought, well, maybe we should look at another possibility. So they went to the mouth of the Churchill River, and there they found the deep water port that they had always wanted. And so instead of completing the work here at Port Nelson, they abandoned everything. They moved what they could to the mouth of the Churchill River, and there they built the modern-day seaport of Churchill.
So yeah, they just gave up and basically left everything there. Yeah. Sober second thoughts. Speaking of sobering up, Channel 53 in the box saying, I had a bear sniff my tent one time in North Georgia. Definitely immediately sober up. Yeah, that would sober. That would give anybody a bit of a jump start, wouldn't it? Yeesh. I've never come, face to face or had too much of a close encounter with a bear, but I've been in the vicinity of bear where there's paw prints and you could smell the bear. And if I know I could smell him, he definitely could smell me. I was hunting with my pops, actually. We were deer tripping out on a deer tripping expedition. And Yeah, it's bear stinks, man. It smells like 10 times as bad as wet dog. You see that bear paw print in the wet, mossy ground, and you're like, yeah, that's I can fit my foot in it. I'm getting let's go a different direction. What do you say? Yeesh.
Well, the reality is that time marches on, and nature chips away slowly at the creations of humans, and it's inevitable that what we see left here today will someday be gone. So the reality is, it's always a good idea to visit a place when you have the opportunity, because we know that they aren't going to be around forever. And this site, I think, if nothing else, reveals the hubris of humans to create something where it really wasn't desirable. And we've, of course, learned a lesson at least. And through the abandonment of Port Nelson, we see what is and what is not possible when you're trying to create an oceanic seaport.
All right, so there you go. Port Nelson. They just gave up. Well, we really messed up on this one. We really pooped the bed on this one, so we're just gonna leave her, and that's that. What about that giant dredge precariously balanced upon that wood timber seawall? That's fine. It's fine. Just leave it there. It'll be okay. So they were so quick to give up on something that had been in use for hundreds of years, and in the decade prior to, they just were not willing to let go of the idea. They were bound and determined, come hell or high water. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Curtis. Curtis said, forgot to measure the water level. Oops. We're going to put millions into this and not even do our homework. Kevin Bacon, good to see you. Whoops. Yeah, whoops. Exactly. But I mean, prior to that, again, York Factory is right on the other side. So I don't know why they had to survey it first. And you'd think if it was in use by York Factory at that point, the fur trade, they weren't exactly using canoes in the Hudson's Bay. They're using the big tall ships. Yes, they would anchor offshore, and I would imagine they would use smaller craft to bring the stuff back and forth, maybe. Either that or they had some kind of dock or port or something going on there. But they were like tall wooden ships, merchant vessels, and so on in the fur trade. And then just all of a sudden to give up on it. So I don't know. I think there was something about that area that they weren't willing to let go of. And then after the realm-wide viewpoint, shall we say, changed after WW1, I think there was a new regime in place and they just gave up on that. But I think it was kind of on purpose. But a lot of fumbles along the way. You know what I'm saying? But this dredge and this whole, that thing gets wrecked. And then, a bunch of economic downturns, including the WW1 itself, puts the project on hold. And then they come back to it and they're like, yeah, we screwed up. Let's just go. It's like, wait, what? I don't know. Crazy stuff. So I've got a couple of photos here for us to look at real quick. And then I've got something that I want to discuss, and then we will wind it down. This is from the wiki, the Wikimedia Commons. It's Port Nelson, Manitoba. Just a couple of interesting photos there. By the way, they went to survey this area in the winter. There's where winter would kind of sort of look like. This is 1928, apparently already abandoned at this point. Big, huge structures here, not just houses. Big, huge buildings back here. Sorry, I can't really get it any larger than this. That's a terrible picture. I think that might be the big structure we're looking at. Some kind of elevator here, grain elevator maybe, or something. This is the thing that he was saying looked like a foundation that was flooded. I don't know. It's here in this photo, and I think that's what he was looking at it in the drone, or maybe this. But these do look like lakes. But again, I can't make this larger. I'm sorry, but this almost looks like a canal or something here, joining this one to this one. So what's going on here? Was there something already here? And again, that's why they were at first, we're just going to go in here. We're going to get this $1 million dredge going. We're going to build this island. We're going to build a 17 truss iron bridge going out to this island. And we're going to get this thing kickstarted. But it looks like there may have been pre-existing infrastructure here. I don't know. We'll just pass it off with the Inuit or quote-unquote Eskimo narrative. Nothing up there but polar bears and Inuit peoples living in igloos. Nothing to see here. I don't know. I think there was something already there. There was some kind of cataclysm. And then they went back to try to reclaim it, and they just couldn't, or they gave up too soon. So you can see your channel to be dredged, this portion here, because there's a narrow part right there. This part is fine all the way till you get to here. Then there's a narrow section at bottlenecks there, I guess. And there's the island, and then there's that steel truss bridge. And then they were going to build some breakwaters out here that they didn't even bother, I guess. Here's a better shot. So they already did some dredging here to construct the island, supposedly. Way up here. Again, right by York Factory, which was an old fort for supposedly the Hudson's Bay Fur Trading Company, and just down from that other fort, that Star Fort. And then, of course, the Royal Northwest Mounted Police have to have their detachment up here. There was only 1,000 people. Why do you need barracks with this many Mounties out here? You think maybe you would just need a sheriff and a couple of deputies? I mean, this is a province in Canada, so they would have counties. You could have your county sheriff up there and a couple of deputies. You wouldn't need the Mounties up there. Not for basically a peak time, 1,000 people. Main portion of Port Nelson from the hospital. They had a hospital up there, and they had electric up there. This is from the hospital showing cleared land in the foreground, Manitoba. Yeah, okay. Looks to me like there was a lot going on in this place for them to just suddenly just up and leave it. There's the shipyard there. They had a full shipyard. And again, the rail. There's that crazy bridge. You can see where the train would travel along here, all the way out from the mainland. So that is from wikimediacommons.org. Again, link below for that, as well as what we've covered at the top half of the show. I do have a small folder here of photographs. A couple of photos we already had a look at, but at least we can kind of sort of zoom in on them a little bit, somewhat, and have a better look. Just sort of some random stuff of what I could pull from the interwebs. Some of Port Nelson itself, and some from that wacky Port Nelson dredge craft machine. Vessel. We'll go with vessel. Let's see here. So there it is right there. It's got a big steam crane on it. Looks like another steam crane. This thing was huge, man. Polson Ironworks Limited, Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Steel shipbuilders, engineers, and boilermakers. Steel hydraulic dredge, Port Nelson. Now being built by the Polson Ironworks for the Department of Railways and Canals to be used in the deepening of the Hudson's Bay Railway Terminal Port in Hudson's Bay. So they have a picture of it, but they're saying it's now being built, but it looks built already. That's weird, but anyways. Steel vessels, tugs, barges, dredges, and scows. Marine engines and boilers, all sizes and all kinds. So if you want to buy yourself a barge or a tugboat, these are the guys you call. Just keep that in mind, okay, people? Call Polson Ironworks in Toronto, Canada. So this is the narrow gauge rail system on that timber wharf. This is not that dredge. This is a different ship, obviously, but this is that timber wharf. There it is, just balancing on the aforementioned wharf. Again, you couldn't just hack away at this and ease it down or dismantle it and scrap it. No, we're just going to leave it there. It costs us $1 million, but they haven't got money to burn. Really? Even during WW1, you got money to burn, do you? Well, yeah, we've already got the Bank of Canada, so we created out of thin air anyway, so who cares? Oh, okay, why didn't you just say so? And there it is today, and there's the thumbnail. You can see. Just got some timber. I know I'm harping on it, people, but I've got timber that this thing was just balancing on, and they couldn't get it down. They just, the technology that was able to build this thing out of iron in Toronto and then tow it all the way up here to the Arctic and then down into the Hudson's Bay so it could dredge and start building this island and be used to already dredge a whole part we saw on that one map. And then so much so that, okay, well, we better dry dock this thing here during our little hiatus during the WW1. And then a big wave picks it up and puts it here, and there they leave it. I just don't get it.
Well, that's just silly.
Silly, yes. Idiotic, yes.
And there's that wide shot of it. So there again, the mainland. I mean, this in itself is quite a feat. This in itself has a guy baffled, befuddled, and bewildered beyond belief. I mean, this can be done. We've seen this done. It's not a very large island. It's maybe a half finished. So it's going to be twice the size. We've seen man-made islands supposedly with bloody star forts on them that are 10 times the size. So sure, it's fine. But this is crazy. And then to leave that thing just balanced there for over, for 100 years. Yeah, it was a 100-year wave, KJ. Gotta watch out for them 100-year waves. Again, there was already a lot going on. There's a big, massive structure back here, a bunch of other big buildings, big, massive shipyard, infrastructure, and what looked like canals, too, in that other photo. I'm impressed with this. It's a head scratcher, but I am impressed. This is from 1917. So there you go. That is Port Nelson. Like I said, just a small photo file. We already saw quite a few photos that were worth seeing for the most part. I mean, do I doubt that a massive wave can cause damage? Absolutely not. I mean, we see it all the time in modern times, now that everybody's got a camera on their phone in their pocket. Tsunamis and tidal waves or rogue waves, sure. But just, again, it's the official narrative, and it's the goofiness stacked on top of the goofiness on top of the goofy. You know what I'm saying? It's a goofy sandwich. It's a goofiness sandwich. Anyways, before I sign off for the evening here, I'm getting ready to wind it down. But before I do that, I'm going to have a little bit of a rant. And this is out of character for me, but it's more of a warning per se than a rant, really. And I talked about it already a little bit at the top half of the show. But AI, I'm not a fan of the AI. And I think we have to be really careful with AI, especially in our community here online. I've already seen a lot of tomfoolery and trickery and shenanigans going on with the photographs and the manipulation when it comes to AI.
Shenanigans!
And it's fooled some, and others will not be fooled. But I think we need to be diligent. And it's not just photographs, it's old video and film footage as well. I refuse to deal with AI. I could go into the YouTube channel creators studio, it's called, and there's a section there in the content section where you can use AI to assist you based on your pre-existing content and also based on what you watch on the YouTubes. It'll suggest for you videos. The AI will suggest for you video topics. Not just a couple sentences either, entire outlines, and poses a question like, have you ever wondered why bridges could float in Tartaria? And I don't mean float on the water, but float in the air. I could easily do that, but I refuse to even look at photographs that are suspicious. If I can't verify the source of the photograph, I don't use it. And the same thing with vintage footage videos that I upload every Wednesday. I will not even use a colorized version of what was supposed to be original black and white old film footage. I try to even avoid film footage that's watermarked with something. I try to find the raw original footage if I can. The only thing I may do is adjust the contrast if it's too dark, and I may try to correct the speed. But AI, I'm not a fan of. I think as stupid as the AI can be, it can be used very deceptively. And I think a lot of people can easily fall for it. And I'm not just talking about channels that use AI for the thumbnails for their videos. That's bad enough. But you could kind of spot those. And more channels on YouTube, not just in our community, but just not even in YouTube, but just social media wide, whether it's YouTube, BitChute, Rumble, you name it, right? AI created thumbnails. But more and more now I'm getting in my feed, and I don't know about you. I'm going to put the question out there. I've spoken to a few folks behind the scenes about it, and they agree that in their feed, YouTube is pushing these AI content reset or old world channels that supposedly do what other channels in our community do. And I was getting inundated with these things, but I could kind of spot them a mile away because, again, I have at my disposal the tools to create this type of video, but I refuse to do it because I think it's disingenuous. It's a big fancy word for a Canadian fellow like me, but I think it's being phony and fake is what I think. Now, eventually, I've had to block these channels because YouTube keeps trying to shove these things down my throat. And a couple of things I've noticed, they either contain, almost all of them contain the word Tartaria in the channel name. Tartarian Secrets, Tartaria Uncovered. They all have that AI narrator voice. And oftentimes they're presenting AI generated photos as real photos. Now, I'm not talking about photo manipulated photographs that we examine and scrutinize on live streams, and other channels do it too, where you look at something that you know it's been manipulated, photo manipulated, and you point that out. That's the reason why you're showing the photograph. No, I'm talking about AI, fake, phony crap that's being passed off as real photographs. Photographs of the interior of some massive old world estate where in the rendering of what's supposed to be the photograph on a table is what looks like melted candle wax, but it's not a candle. It's one of those oil burning lanterns. So the top half of what the AI is generated is one of those oil lanterns that you put down on your table or your desk or whatever, you know, the old timey. But then the bottom half, the computer decided to render it like candle wax melting over those things with the ring you put your finger through to hold the candle, those candle. So it can't even figure that out. But these channels are fooling people. And the other thing I've noticed is a lot of them have come into being just only recently, October 2025. And by checking out some of the comments on some of the videos on these things, I'm flabbergasted as to how many people are fooled by these things. Now, I was hesitant to share these because I don't want to promote them. But it's channels like this, Old World Secrets. And again, if you click on one of the videos, it's one of those AI narration voices that you can tell I'm just a stupid robot. It doesn't quite sound human. It doesn't sound like a crappy robot Stephen Hawking voice, but it doesn't quite, it's that uncanny valley sounding stuff. And it's, have you ever wondered why? No, I've never wondered that at all, because what you're proposing is absolutely ridiculous, and you're not coming with any actual evidence in terms of real photographs or real documents. You're coming with AI-generated crap. Let's see if I can pull up another one here. If I'll have to stop sharing and then reshare. But this, yeah, Old World Secrets. Oh, it's going to let me do it too. The other one here, The Archivist. This one I'm kind of on the fence on. I'm not sure if it's an actual guy and he's just using the AI voice narration tool because, I don't know, who knows? Maybe he's got a stutter. Maybe he's shy or thinks, maybe he's uncomfortable with his own voice. Maybe he doesn't think he'll do a good job narrating. But I kind of think that this one is just suspicious to me as well. And this one's October. The other one I forgot to show is also October, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, no, it's November. Excuse me. Tartaria Uncovered. October. All very recently, all getting very big pushes. There's a siren. They're coming to get you, Tartaria Uncovered. I'm not a historian, just someone. I don't even think you're a someone. I think this is one of those phony fake channels that uses a bunch of AI stuff, and then they just sit back, and the algorithm for some reason is favoring this garbage. And I'm not sure why. The only reason I can come up with is that they're using it as agent provocateur, something to muddy and dilute the waters, make the rest of us look foolish or incompetent. Tartaria Central. October. I think there was one more here. Age Den Pro. Kind of strange name, but yeah, there's another one. Oh, by the way, there was one other thing. I'm going to quit ranting here in a second, but there was one of these. I noticed something interesting in the email, their email address or whatever, too. I just got to find which one it was now. Bear with me. Yeah, so be very wary. If this is the one, at archivist-eng English. So are there multiple archivist channels with this kind of tomfoolery? Is there a French, an Italian, a Mandarin or Cantonese, a Japanese, a Hindi, Spanish? So just be very wary of these. I think these are being pushed out there to, again, to, add these to the mix of all the legitimate channels, and it delegitimizes the channels that are actually out there trying to gather something. And I'm no great super Einsteinian, discoverer here. I'm just come to the table with what I can find. I do boots on the ground videos in my immediate area because I find suspicious buildings that don't, in my opinion, fit the narrative. I take some video footage of them and I present them to the rest of you with my ideas of what I think is going on. I try to find clues in some of this old film footage, and I share that with you on Wednesdays. And on Sundays, I do a live show where I either discuss a topic that I've come up with or one that's been suggested by one of you. And we do a little bit of a deeper dive into this topic, and we look around and we try to find some truth. I've tried to just bring a little box with a couple of puzzle pieces in it to the table, and I'm just dumping it out on the table with all these other channels, big and small, all these other researchers that might not even have a channel and just are doing research behind the scenes. And they've got their boxes with puzzle pieces, and they're bringing it and dumping it on the table. And we're just asking questions and digging around, poking around, like that old fella there in Port Nelson. And we're just trying to come to some kind of semblance of a reasonable explanation. But these other channels, and I'm sure there's more, that's not what they're doing. They're coming with a whole bunch of BS, and it's going to cause a problem. If it's already causing a problem, because people in the comment sections are swallowing it hook, line, and sinker and praising the snot out of these. But conversely, there are some people in the comments that are calling them out for what they are: AI garbage.
Oh, shit!
PCS World in the box. Good to see you. Nightborn Phoenix is here as well. Howdy, howdy. Welcome. So Morgan is saying the archivist is Drew Duncan. He had a channel before. Okay, so he was the one that I think I was kind of on the fence about that guy. I wasn't too sure about that one. But again, you got to kind of, I mean, look, people can create their own channels on whatever social media they want and do whatever they want, okay? And people can watch. They can partake in whatever they want online. They can watch or listen to podcasts or videos or whatever you want to. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I don't like people telling me what to do. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm just throwing this out there as a cautionary statement. This is what I found. A few behind the scenes have agreed with me. There's some suspicious channels out there, and just to be wary, be extra cautious, be a little bit more diligent, more now than ever. Because there's people out there that are, again, they're trying to poison the well, is the best description I can think of. So, and if that ends up not being the case, they're not big phony AI garbage bullshit, then you know what? Links below of how to get a hold of me. All right. You got beef with the beef that I got, then bring some bread and some mustard, and I'll bring the beef, and we can sit down, we could chew some fat if you are in fact a real human being. Now, again, archivists, then, well, no, people are saying, no, that's an actual person. All right, there you go. And again, you can watch and consume whatever you want, but just be careful. Just be careful. As I always say, do your own research. So with that being said, getting ready to wind it down here. But before I go, I do want to end on a positive note here. I'm not out here to judge or crucify anybody now. I just want to, again, give people a heads up. That's all. And, we Canadians, we're concerned folks. We're friendly, we're kind, we're polite. We like to watch out for one another, but we'd like to watch out for other folks too. Make sure everything's doing okay. Make sure everybody's all right. That's all. You roll up on us and ask us for directions. We're going to try to help you. I came across this stuff. I'm going to try to just give you a little tap on the shoulder and say, psst, hey, bud, come here. Yeah, you want to kind of like be careful of this stuff there, eh, bud? Just keep your head on a swivel there, buddy. Watch out for the AI. It's like I said, it ain't the super sentient robots coming to get us like in the Arnold Schwarzenegger. Get down! Yeah! It ain't the Terminators. Their AI is only as smart as the dumbasses that programmed the AI. But people are falling for it. So, I'm just trying to be helpful. Like in this next video clip I'm going to share with you. Just trying to be helpful.
Hey, yeah, do you know how to get to Saskatchewan? But that's like 2,000 kilometers from here.
Oh. How many football fields is that?
That would depend if you were asking about CFL or NFL football fields.
Are you giving me some kind of attitude?
That depends on what kind of attitude you're asking if I'm giving you there, bud.
I'd like to see you come within 4 camel spits of the United States and try and say something like that, bud.
Yeah, you Yankee Doodle dumb will really use anything besides metric to measure stuff now, eh?
Yeah. Now, how many of them yeehaw units is it to Saskatchewan?
How many yeehaw units is it to Saskatchewan? That's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's not bad. All right, that's maybe not the best way to approach things. He was just trying to give some advice, though. Just trying to be helpful. Just like this, a lot of you down there in America, even in Kentucky. Again, Kathy talking about cold and snow down there in Kentucky. So I want to try to be helpful. I'm going to share a video here with you for how to deal with snow a little bit. Okay, here you go.
Okay, we're ready. Holy mackerel!
Bye, honey, I love you.
Tecnologia! Tecnologia!
I'm just gonna stick that in right there.
That's the best way to do it right there, bud, is just get yourself a sheet of plywood or particle board or something and just scoop her right up there, bud. Scoop her right up. No, the hot water's a bad idea. That guy's window cracked quicker than he could blink. It is pretty accurate, though. It looks like you're getting a kick out of that. So there you go. We'll end it on a positive note. And with that, that is going to seal the deal here for Frankie. New West Reset and New West Reset live episode of 149. We looked at a failed reset, Port Nelson, there in Manitoba. Again, links below. Thank you once again to friend of the channel, Cory Ash, for forwarding that topic my way. I thought that was pretty interesting. If you're watching this after the live, thank you, and let me know what you thought of this topic down below. Thank you to everybody in the box. Thanks for shooting in. Thanks for winding down your weekend here. Yours truly on the Sunday Funday Show. Woo! Woo! We shall see you Wednesday, vintage footage. Friday, boots on the ground. Got a beauty for you coming up Friday. And then back here next week for the Sunday live show. Same time, same channel. It'll be the 150th episode of New West Reset Live. Don't know what I'm going to do yet. No idea. Hell, leave me some suggestions. Let me know down below. Again, speaking of down below, links down below for everything. Thanks again, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a great week. And until the next one, take care out there and have yourselves a good one. All right? Cheers. Bye.
It's a mystery. It's a mystery wrapped in a riddle inside an enigma.